Hi, this is Curt, and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
This is coming up now. We're going to go to Ohio. This is my favorite case. And
we'd have Chip come in on this one.
He should, except he's mourning Jimmy Buffett at the moment.
So, me too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I would quote him right now, but I can't come up with a good quote that matches our legal issue. So we'll sail on. So I tried something. So Ohio, let me state why this is my favorite case, because it is so logically correct. It is, I mean, they could have done it in 2 lines, but the court looked to rational, and I'll tell everyone what it is, but the court just looked at one fact and said, here's the obvious conclusion. So here's what we have. The question is, as you pose, right, when does a vacancy occur in an officer's position? So let me start why. The reason this case comes up, before I tell you the very simple facts, is because in Ohio, it says whenever a vacancy occurs in a promoted rank, there's a process. The process is there's going to be a competitive list. If there's no competitive list, other things happen, all within 60 days of the vacancy. So the question here is, was there a vacancy by the actions I'm going to tell everyone about? And if there was a vacancy, then no one disputes, right, that they had to go through with the process, the civil service process. And the union wants the process to be adhered to, which is typically what unions do, right? You wrote the process, you adhere to the process. So that's what they want. So here's what happens. A fire chief retires in a plan. Sort of. I guess the plan was to get him a pension, but he unfortunately, no one thought of this, I'm guessing, except the union, and unions do. They catch this stuff. They know this stuff. Union lawyers, they don't fight fires anymore. But so the fire chief retires one day on January 6th of 20, and he's reappointed the following day, all to get him pension benefits or whatever. But the point is, he retired. He submits a letter saying he's retired, and then he's hired the next day. The union argues successfully that once he submitted the letter of retirement, it doesn't matter what happens, there's then a vacancy. And the court just looks and says, and I love how simple this is, you submitted a letter of resignation, there's a vacancy. It doesn't matter whether you're, reappointed the next day or 5 minutes later. The vacancy existed, and that's the end of it. And yet this went all the way up to the Ohio Supreme Court. This was a big deal to look at the obvious fact. There's a vacancy. And the law doesn't say whenever a vacancy occurs for more than a day or more than 2 days. It just says whenever a vacancy occurs, that's it. Well, the vacancy occurred as soon as he resigned. The position's vacant. And it didn't matter whether they appointed the same person, another person, or the person's father or mother. A vacancy occurred. So that's all I have to say about it. I just love how simple this is, and I'm shocked how high this went up in court. I could have won this case.
Well, the chief was able to grab another 3 years. So, yeah. But interesting though, what if he didn't resign? What if he didn't retire? What if he just, and I don't know if you can do this, but you retire solely for the purpose of pension, solely for pension purposes. Yeah, I know.
Sounds like you're a little bit pregnant.
But you're going to stay in the position. I don't know. I mean, I think what they were trying to do, and again, what they were trying to do here was allow the chief to remain the chief and collect his basic, I'm assuming it's a state pension. So basically he'd get his salary plus the pension while he served as the fire chief. So
they should have appointed him provisionally while they waited for the exam. That's what they should have done.
Yeah. Well, and I think the pension systems I'm aware of, you can't do this. I mean, this is not permitted. And I'm assuming now they've got a real problem, because according to this, now they've got to appoint someone retroactive back to January of 2020.
Yeah, what does that do to all the decisions and benefits
retroactive,
and right?
But now, are you going to have 2 fire chiefs? I mean, how are we going to work this one out? So it'll be a little bit of somebody's got a tiger by the tail here. So.
Yeah. Well, good. Look, good for the union. I mean, it's not that I'm a pro or anti-union person. I'm pro the right answer. But, the union was right on this. There was a vacancy. And, union shouldn't have to be forced to play semantics with it. And I'm not coming out against the fire chief of the department. I get what happened, but he got caught in a procedural snafu.